legislative win. Could the House flip it if it doesn't? In other words, if they don't materialize and the House is on vacation, the Senate's starting its vacation despite the promise that they wouldn't start a vacation, well, concerns, let's just put it that way. American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Schlapp, Democratic strategist Michael Starr Hopkins, and after the bell co-host David Asman. Dave, begin with you then. They need a win.
They need a win, but I'm optimistic about taxes. I know you think it may be put off till next year. The Democrats signed this manifesto, if you will, about taxes. What does it say? It essentially says more of the same, that the government's the best entity to spend money that's in the economy, or at least better than the private sector that's now taxed. They want to increase taxes on the rich. They want to continue to spend as much government money. This leaves a huge vacuum.
But that manifesto signed by 45 of 48 Democrats
45 of 48.
Don't even consider cutting taxes on the top 1%.
Essentially, that's what it leaves a huge vacuum for Donald Trump to step in. Tonight, of course, he's speaking out. I hope he hits on taxes. And again, yesterday, you had a lot of people on, Bill McGurn and others, saying that he really needs to hit the general public beyond his base. Right. He needs to go a prime time
But I need to
address.
know where he stands.
But he could go. We know that he believes that the government does a worse job.
I know,
at
but I don't know how far he
sector.
wants to go with this.
He better. But this is an opportunity.
You're right about that. But Michael, I don't know
territory.
whether Democrats sort of demanding that, conditions to have bipartisan talks is the right way to go either.
Democrats are open to coming to the table, but Donald Trump himself doesn't know.
But they put all these conditions on it.
We have things that we want to see done. We don't want taxes.
Well, why would you preclude or exclude anything? Sit down, talk.
That's fair enough, but I think that there are things.
We'll go to Olive Garden.
There we go. We can do like all you can eat bread.
Don't knock it.
Democrats have specific things that we want to make sure don't happen. So we don't want tax cuts to be.
Bring it up when you talk.
We can, but we have things that we want. You don't go to the table without any preconditions. You want to have some things so that the other side knows where you're negotiating.
You'll never get talking that way.
Came out with.
Matt, that's my concern. I do want to get more into. I don't want to leave out Matt. Matt, the only thing that I guess if you're a conservative, and I know you're one of the nation's most important ones, I'm telling you, the message I'm getting from Republicans is they don't know which end is up. They don't know what they want. They don't even know what the president wants. Does he want a tax on the upper income? Does he want this to be across the board? Does he want it to be real reform or just tinkering? That's why I've always argued, just for clarity, maybe it's time for the president to do an Oval Office address.
Right. So there's three things here. The first thing is that there's a lot of change in the West Wing and the president's staff with a brand new chief of staff. I don't think there'll be major changes on the economic team, but there will be changes at the White House that will help them mobilize grassroots support for their agenda. That's what was missing on health care. Television ads don't get it done. You need grassroots people getting involved in calling these offices and doing events, and that's what's got to happen on Texas. The second thing is, when people talk about the top 1% like these Democrats, Neil, you know what that means. That means we're fine with corporate tax.
That's what it means.
It means we're fine with corporate tax reductions, but we do not want to allow small business tax cuts. We don't want to do anything on the individual side. That is a non-starter for Republicans.
And they're showing all this notion that they got to do something. And they know very well the prospects for controlling Washington as they do now, next year, at least two branches as they do now, deteriorates rapidly if they don't get something done. Yet they seem to have a suicide wish. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, which is you're right. If they don't get the major promises they've made to the voters done, I think they are in great political risk. It is a mistake on taxes to already assume that they can't get it done. I think they should get it through on reconciliation. They shouldn't pay for it if they don't need to, and they should try to do this as much as they can as a Republican effort with Democrats, especially senators who are in these red states, who are in a precarious position in 2018. At the end of the day, they've got to do something on taxes. They stood up against repealing Obamacare, which is not popular in their states. If they stand up against tax cuts for small businesses, they are going to be the ones who are vulnerable. And therefore, I think Michael's right. Some of these Democrats have to break away to save their own political necks and to help the president.
Can I just ask Michael a question?
Sure.
Because, Michael, President Obama put together a bipartisan commission back when he was president. They said lower the corporate rates, get rid of a lot of the deductions. What Republicans are now saying, the president just tabled that. He ignored that report. It was only bipartisan approach to tax reform we've ever had since the 1980s, and the president got rid of it. He put it in the trash can. Didn't that disappoint you?
It did, because President Obama, and, you know, for all of the criticisms of him, he actually went out of his way to make sure that there were Republicans in this group, and that it was not just a democratically leaning
report.
Well, he didn't dump the report, though. There was no support for it.
Well, there was a lot of support among Republicans.
Yeah, but the more conservative side of the Democratic wing and the Tea Party side couldn't get it done. And so it created an awkward situation where he spent political capital getting it done.
It was his fault that it went in the trash, though. Nobody else.
It takes two to tango.
Guys, could I just bring you an update on, we're getting some word of the White House on some of these very issues. And this is coming from OMB Director Mick Mulvaney via our John Roberts. He has addressed, that is the budget director, some of these issues on a debt ceiling increase. Mulvaney was open, as you might recall, to make it on the condition of either doing something on cutting some spending, cutting taxes, addressing the debt beyond just this temporary measure. But all those conditions seem to be gone. Mulvaney right now has since gone into Steve Mnuchin camp, the Treasury Secretary, that there should just be a clean debt ceiling increase separately. And Dave, you'll be happy to hear this. The Bannon proposal to raise taxes on the very richest is dead. It's not going anywhere. Your thoughts?
Kind of like the border adjustment tax. Remember that? That eventually went nowhere. The point is, they've got to get it done. I think they're going to be. This is one hump that they're going to be able to get over relatively easily, because they're
that would clear the way for debt ceiling.
Yeah, and it would also clear the way for a clear process to taxes. I think, by the way, Michael, I like to believe that at least 2 or 3 Democrats would come on board to, at least on corporate tax rates. Everybody agrees that the reason why companies are going to Ireland is because tax rates are too high right here.
You don't want them to be too low, right?
I don't want them to be
15 to 20% figure year. Is that too low?
I think that that's a decent number, but I think that, I actually do. I think one of the big things that we Republicans and Democrats are going to end up doing at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a surprise. I think you'll see Democrats at least suggest we bring back the framework of the grand bargain and start negotiating from that point, because it included corporate issues, it included social cuts, it addressed all the issues.
But everyone's got to put their own skin in the game, right?
They do. Everyone's going to lose something.
Michael, I think it's going to be exactly the opposite. I think there are going to be individual issues like a corporate tax. We're going to see just those carve-outs of things that people agree on, which are very few.
Coming up to 2018, I think that's dangerous.
Matt, I did want to get your thought. And I know you're concerned with this sort of stuff, and sometimes in debt ceiling, battles in the past, it's always been over, should we just willy-nilly raise the debt as we have, 54, 55 times, or do something different? It looks like they're just pushing for a clean debt ceiling increase and moving on. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, conservatives would like to see us test this proposition that if you don't increase the debt limit, all hell breaks loose. And there are people who feel like that is not exactly well-founded.
Do you feel that?
Well, I think the problem for me and for a lot of us is that we've never tested this minefield, and if you go there and everything does go to hell in a handbasket, everyone's going to look at the president.
But do you remember years back when, what was the ratings agency that lowered our AAA credit rating, and we avoided
was it S&P or Fitch?
S&P, I think. But we avoided, I think, you could be right. But we avoided that. But the whole, parade of characters and issues, and it began to look silly, ultimately prompted a downgrade. So you don't even need something like, doing that, shutting the government down to get that result.
Here's my view is I'm disappointed. I'm not saying they shouldn't try to find a way to raise the debt limit that brings in some conservative voices. I actually think they should do that. As you all know, this is all a silly proposition. You can keep raising the debt limit, but if you don't do anything about entitlements, we're cooked. And we've got to go there. So the only way you do that is probably with the grand bargain. But I agree with David. That's not going to happen here. What's going to happen here is something's going to be brought together by the end of the year to take care of the budget and to take care of tax cuts. I'm not looking for tax reform anymore. I think it's too big. But I do think we'll get individual and corporate tax cuts. And I also think...
Will that be enough to keep the party in power?
hold the presses. I also think we're going to get a fix on Obamacare. If we don't get that, I think our congressional majorities are
Did you
in
have
doubt.
a couple of martinis before getting here?
No, I'll need them afterwards.
Oh,
I'll need them afterwards.
good.
You
That's
heard
my
it here
strategy.
first.
Before, during, and after.
There we go.
David, what do you think of that?
Well, I think the martinis is a great idea.
we
We
go.
should have it in the green room right now.
Exactly.
No, I don't think that that health care is. I think that is a bridge too far. However,
Matt's been right on a lot of this
he
stuff.
has. I'm not in the Beltway anymore. I brought up there. I couldn't wait to get out of it.
You know
but,
what I like about Matt, too? He goes on all these insane shows, and he argues his position quite well.
both he and his wife
that's
do. The
nice.
whole family does.
Mercedes is awesome,
You're
too.
both very good at that.
Well,
God
it is
bless-
because of the martinis, I think.
Well, God bless your guts, but go ahead, Dave.
No, I just think that we're going to have individual items that are passed, and you ask if it's enough. Maybe it's not enough for 2018 for the elections, but I think it's enough for the stock market and for all the.
If they make them retroactive.
I think. Look, I agree with Charlie Gasparino. I hate to say that; it's dangerous to do, but I think that the stock market rise right now is not because of tax cuts cooked into it. It's because of what the president has done is reducing regulations, because he's pro-business as opposed to an anti-business president. And if you have a couple of tax cuts on top of what he's done about regulations, a stock market Dow could go up 500 to 1,000
If there's
points
a
more.
problem them getting the spending measure done, if there's a problem them getting a debt ceiling increase going smoothly, then the markets will go nuts. That I think would happen.
Definitely
That
correct.
is true.
So
that is true.
How can your friends in the Democratic Party help avoid this?
I mean, we have to figure out our budget. And so Democrats, they have to work with Republicans when it comes to our budget and when it comes to making sure that we're meeting.
Do you ever find it weird, though, and you're a great person and a great guest, and I've said this to Republicans who blasted Obama and they're piling on a debt. They piled up under Bush, piles up under all sorts of presidents. This sudden fixation with the debt and overspending. It's like me all of a sudden lecturing you about speed it up on the life cycle. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
You know, it's always ironic. Whenever one party's
Right. But
in
do you
power,
find
the other one
when I'm hearing
decides.
Chuck Schumer screaming, you gotta do the debt and all. Stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the politics kind of the game that we all want to complain about the budget while we're not there. But I mean, we are at a precipice where we have to make sure that, you know, with job creation, with the budget, that we're meeting our moral obligations. And so when it comes to our budget,
I can't help smiling when you say these things, though, because it was from $10 to $20 trillion it went up under President Obama.
but that was also the
Under Bush,
collapse
too,
of
but
Wall
both-
Street.
Both parties really. I don't think both the parties really care about the debt.
It's
I
the
think
swamp.
they should.
It's the swamp. It's the
It's the
Beltway swamp.
quicksand
Let's
of
face it.
the political environment.
Quicksand of the Beltway swamp.
Yeah, and your generation's the one that's going to get burnt.
Yeah, I
Dave
know.
and
We've
I are
already
just
accepted
gonna get
we're
in
never
under
going to
the.
see Social Security.
We're going to be fine,
Yeah.
you know, but I don't know. It doesn't look good for
Are you ever
guys.
going to get Social Security?
No, he's
My
not.
generation accepts. We're paying it for you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you
Yeah,
very,
we
very much.
appreciate it.
Yeah, drinks are on you after this.
Yeah, exactly.